Welcome to another episode of Drummer Sports, and we are here again with another exciting episode on the Waste Palava series. And we have to talk about we had a discussion last week and we could not finish it, and we're going to finish it up this week because last week we were talking about the effect of waste on our society, on our economy in Nigeria. So last week we talked more about the human populace and society, but now we want to go and focus on the economy today. And today I have some wonderful people. I have some wonderful people here with me as usual. I have MK, I have Deepo, and I have Sarumi Joan. I'm sure you're all conversant with you already know Joan, Deepo, and MK. But today we have an awesome person here with us, and his name is Charles Ebi. He is the project convener of Project Replast. He has been trying to he has done some activity. What he does, he recycles plastic into flower vases that we can do, and it's something we've been having discussions with him. So we're really glad to have you here, Charles. Thanks for coming on board on this discussion. So let's go down to the nitty-gritty of today. We're talking about waste. We've been talking about waste for a long time. Talked about the effects on the society, health-wise, who is responsible. We talked about it, but now I want us to just focus on the economy. I've been previewed to a publication by the World Bank which talks about the cost of air pollution in Lagos. Reading that publication, it bust my head completely. I'm telling you, and because it seems like we are living without knowing the effects. We just, it's just like you are suffering and you don't know why you are suffering. So I'll be throwing this to Charles, because Charles, you've seen that there's a problem with plastic pollution and you've tried to take action. But I want to know that, did you see any of this effect of this plastic pollution on the environment, not even the environment, the economy itself, economy of people? Because we want to really go, like, what are one of the effects of this plastic pollution on the economy from your own perspective?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Charles.
Yes. When it comes to plastic, economic effect of waste generally, I'm not really concerned now about plastic.
Okay.
There was one particular time, I think that was 2016, in Port Harcourt, there was this carbon suit.
All right.
Like you heard something about carbon suit. Like if you dry your white clothes outside, it takes if you should spend 4 hours. But when you come back, you just see those black particles on the white suit, like white clothes.
All right.
So at that point in time, when you go to the market, you even find it difficult. People buying gari outside. People just try to display their gari, so they don't display gari, and it's very hard for people to even wear white, and it's very rare for people to paint their house, the outside of their house white, because of this environmental problem, this carbon soot and everything. So it has really cost a lot. Even our nose should do, what we breathe in poison at that point in time. And what majorly causes those carbon soot, maybe from those tires they burn, or those plastic people burn around the streets, try to find means whereby they can put those death off. So it has been costing a lot of harm, and it increased. I read something about most of this pollution has caused more damage to our health system. It has increased the rate of cancer, rate of breathing system, and it has caused many things a lot.
All right. Thank you very much. One thing I've been able to bring out of that is the carbon suit you talked about is there's a name for it. We call it carbon black, and carbon black while we're doing pollution engineering in school, we talked about how it can be an adhesive to transfer maybe terrible chemicals that can just adhere. It can adhere to the surface of those black suits you see, and they go into your alveoli and cause you a lot of respiratory problem. And I can even say in the place of corona like this now, you understand? And even looking beyond the health issue, because I want us to look more economical. The money used to treat all these diseases they cost a lot on the economy. They drain the system down. They make people spend money. You pay for these things instead of you paying to do a productive activity. You are paying for healthcare. So Joan, I want you to weigh in here because I think people are not really aware of the economic. You don't get people. People just throw their waste on the floor. They say, "It's not my money. I just use it and I throw it away. It's not really affect me." Last to block the drain, and is I, I have my house is not close to the drain place, so it won't affect me. But I want you to, Joan, I want us to go economical about this effect. It's mind-boggling that people don't see. I don't think we use it when it comes to economy. We won't use effects. We'll use costs. I think that word cost defines the effect very well and makes it more so effective. Joan, to you, what are the cost of this waste mismanagement issues or waste palava issues in our economy, Nigeria? Joan?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Just as Mr. Charles has said, you know, as he explained, the carbon suit affects, publicity of products and other things, and this affects in its own case. And I just want to bring the effect down to plastic pollution. Plastic pollution in crop drain actually causes flooding, and sometimes the impact of this flood is going to lead to damages of properties, and which the government might have to instead of placing more monetary emphasis on relevant things like that, they would now need to put more in the budget, have to put more money on reconstructing all these buildings and things like that. So I feel it will actually affect that way. It will not allow the right channeling of money into solving other environmental issues. So it is going to just be about mending environmental issues instead of solving more environmental issues, and that is going to affect the economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thank you very much, Joan. The inability of people to display their wares. I've been taking some courses on the cons recently, and the truth is that if you don't display, people cannot. There's something when you display, you call is like an offer. It's called an invite to treat. So if there's no invite to treat, you can't sell, and when you can't sell, you can't make revenue. And the economy, and we know that our GDP, our per capita income, our trade is dependent on how much we can produce, how much we are able to generate, how much we can give out. If people are not ready to sell, how we producing if we can't sell to people, generate income in our economy or make a transfer of wealth. So, Tipo, what are your own? What have you seen as? Because I want us to have more perspective. I think waste is broader than plastic, is broader than the air pollution, carbon soot, and everything. Tipo, what are one of those costs of waste management on the economy?
Okay, I don't just want to say economy. I want to talk about the Nigerian economy as a whole.
Thank you very much.
We all know that our economy is dependent on oil.
Yeah.
We all know that, and a little bit on agriculture, but more on oil. Yeah. So, firstly, waste mismanagement has always been the bane of the oil sector in our country, because we see that a lot of communities are affected by this oil waste mismanagement. Oil spills into rivers, the fishes are dying in the rivers and everything. People that are dependent on these rivers, probably like little small communities, like rural communities that go there to fetch drinking water, or that's why they get water that they use for cooking or for bathing and all. Now they can't make use of that kind of river. Okay, that is the effect on the people. But now on the government, we see that now the effect on the economy means that, one, the government will have to spend more. That is, if our government is going to be responsive, we have to spend more on responding to these negative effects of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
oil
plenty.
spills,
Yeah,
yeah, on the health of people around
of
that
people.
area.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they would, yeah, they would have to they will have to we know that our country is a country of, okay, if you are affected by something, that you are able to um you're able to come together in one voice and shout that,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
affected by this.
yeah.
They will compensate you. So
Yeah.
we see that from time past, from, I don't want to say 1999, we have always been compensating the Niger Delta. And we should not talk about corruption, but the amount of money
Yes. To
that has been shelved to that, whereas we are just meant to, when the government is meant
yes,
to
divert those
have
funds.
policies, they're meant to
Yes.
have, yeah, have policies that would have not made them
Yes.
shelve out these funds for
Mm.
compensation. Policies on, okay, how to manage your waste, be strict on, if your oil spills or your crude oil, or
Mm.
even, from these refineries, there are
Yes.
air pollution also. So
Yes. Very terrible
a lot
ones.
of amount money will be spent in terms of health than the normal urban areas or the normal commercial areas here.
Yeah.
So, and we all know in Nigeria here that these people are not really taken care of.
Yes.
That's the number one thing. They're not really taken care of. So we see number the health sector, the health sector,
Mm-hmm.
there would a lot of we don't offer free health care in
In
Nigeria,
Nigeria. Yeah.
and I don't know why, but we see that the government would want to put preference to that area
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
terms of the health sector. So it can cause a lot of economical
Yes.
damage, like
Yes.
a lot of damage to Nigeria's economy
On
and
me.
everything. So
All right. Thank you very much, Dupo.
that's my view on it.
Thank you very much, Dupo. One thing I would like to weigh in on what you said now, and from what you've been talking about, especially when you focused on the Niger Delta itself, we can see that if we are not managing our waste well, we would see that the government will spend there on trying to rehabilitate the effects of this waste
Yeah,
mismanagement. Do you get? And those funds that we are using to rehabilitate will have gone to some, because we know that Nigeria is a developing country, and we are not close to being developed. It's so annoying that we do so much, but we are not really getting an output. Do you get? So those funds that are being used, I'm not saying we should not take care of those people, but we should stop. You don't get taking care of those people and not stopping the process. What got those people there is a problem that we need to face and tackle in Nigeria. And one thing you said is, when it comes to the planning board, they always put priority to people who are affected by this environmental, this waste management crisis. And that makes problem for them when they come to economic decisions. You understand? How do we spend? It puts a lot of constraint on the government in how we spend. Thank you, Diko. That was like very insightful. So MK, I'm going over to you right now. Before we even get to MK, someone else has joined in on the chat. We thought it wasn't available, but Graham is here. Favour Victor Graham is here, and he's here to also help us out. So we'll be getting to Graham very soon. MK, what's your own say on this whole topic? We'll be talking about cost. I know you have some things to tell us. So MK, what's up?
Hi everyone, good evening.
Good evening, MK.
So let me just be brief. We kind of touched most everything, but one thing I'd just like to say is you cannot necessarily create a problem and then think the problem will just go away imaginary. You get like the problem wouldn't really just walk away like that. We cannot be chasing economic development without having the environment in mind. We cannot keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and we don't keep the environment without necessarily including the environment.
Right.
So, like they said, most of the time, the quest for most of the time, the reason or why most of the time we find pollution or we find waste anyway, we're trying to move forward. Every day there's a new idea that is developing. Every day there's a new product coming out. Every day there's a new, process. There's a new system. There's a new this coming out because we're trying to move forward. But behind or at the back of our minds, it's time to just put it in that it's not alone. It's not enough. You get just thinking of economic development without thinking of the environment. And we've done that over the years. We've done that so much, and we've seen where that's put us now. Let's just use let's say the plastic waste now, for example. We've seen the effects. We've seen how other countries are trying to manage their own waste. We've seen what other countries. If you go to our landfill, you can see what is there. We basically are just piling and piling and piling and piling in our landfill. While most other countries are putting in policies, they are putting in plans in place to ensure that companies that use, or most of these manufacturing companies are using a particular percentage of their plastic that they produce, thereby embracing recycling. So in meeting, you can't necessarily see the company doing 100% plastics. No, they'll tell you it's like 40%. I think it's at least 40% recycled plastics. And maybe 50% virgin. So they're trying to reduce their exploration rate. They're trying to reduce the virgin plastics they use during their production.
That's true.
Thereby, embracing sustainability. So it's something that we just have to look at. We can't necessarily make progress and put the environment aside and then keep complaining over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's just like all talk and no action. All talk and no action. Yeah. So Favour Graham, we are going to you right now. What's your own view on this cost of waste palava or waste pollution in our country, Nigeria?
Yeah, it's a good evening all. It's a pleasure to have you be part of this.
Yes.
Okay. In my opinion, I just think we're looking at it from a very wrong point of view. Yes, MK said something that I really want to agree with. She said one person's waste is another person's resources. Yes. Yeah, and I think the country, the one particular country, European country, was it Netherlands? Yes, they import waste.
All right.
Like they beg countries to bring waste to them. Why? They convert wasted materials into biomass. They mostly agricultural waste into biomass and use it to generate electricity. So a part of the country generates power through waste.
Yes.
In America, plastics are used for construction.
Yes.
And this generates massive and cut down expenses on cement and limestone and all the long process of manufacturing.
All right.
So if we are to look at waste management, I think we should start looking at waste management from the very innovative point of view.
All right.
Because like MK, I want to rebuttress. One person's waste is a material for something tangible.
That's true. That's very true.
I think Nigeria I want to just say, I think Nigeria should focus more on paying for innovative ideas on reconstruction or meaningful means of recycling waste. And basically, this will save our environment from a lot of pollution, because if we're talking about management, we have to basically we're trying to look for how to convert these waste materials to something more tangible that we can use, a way to reuse waste. There's no how it must be disposed one or the other. We can't keep using it as landfillers, because it takes a longer time for plastic, like you said earlier on, Mr. Shlega, for plastic to actually decompose. I think you said 1,000 or so. So we have to look for meaningful, innovative ways to reconstruct waste to something meaningful.
Yeah.
Yes, the way we can keep using it and it's not wasted. So that is it from me, sir.
All right.
Can I just
one thing? Oh, you're free. Yeah, but just be quiet. Yeah.
Right. The best, we have to look for ways, because when we talk about the impact on the economy, these things that we're storing as waste have usefulness. It can be used to get in time for something else, as well as us taking out so much time and so much money to treat problems that could have been avoided in the first place. So these are ways in which we can impact the economy. That's just what I wanted to add.
All right. Thank you very much. So one thing I've been able to bring out from your discussions is, one, it's we need to tackle waste from the source itself. We need to reinvent and think about it. But there's something that I've been expecting you guys to say. And people, one thing about an economy is not just about the money. There are two factors of productivity in the economy. We have capital and we have labor. And I was looking at us, if we talk about labor, the truth is labor is human being. We the human beings. We need a lot. We are part of the economy. We make the product. We are the most productive part of the economy. But this thing has affected us psychologically. One thing about us is that waste has affected us. One, when we breathe in this air waste from NOS and SOx, in a way, if we don't control it now, NOx and SOx reduce the cognitive ability of children. It affects them a lot. It affects even the adults a lot. It kills brain cells because the brain is able to is ready to take in more CO2 than 12 times more CO2 than oxygen. And that spoils the brain and damages the brain. And if we keep bringing generations, it means that we reduce the quality of thinking, the quality of innovation that our labor force can bring in time and time again. From generation to generation, we keep killing that innovation. On a general scale, we know that some people will be exceptions, but on a general scale, the productivity of our labor force can be affected by this our waste management. Then we look at it this way: even the labor force we have right now, let's take plastic for an instance. Plastics block the drain. The drains cause flooding and they flow to the roads. When we apply on the roads with flooded water, the roads become very bad. It takes more time. It takes me maybe a distance I'm supposed to travel from point A to point B in 5 minutes. I'm traveling in 2 hours. That 2 hours I could have used it for something more productive. So it affects our economy in ways we don't even think and imagine. Do you understand? We fix a road today, the next day or the next 2 years is spoiled because of plastics have blocked the drains. So it's I think going forward, we're going to look at most of this pollution specifically, like plastic pollution, air pollution, talk about how we can treat these things, looking at innovative ways forward. So I really thank you all for coming on board today. We had a very interesting discussion today. We talked about the effect of waste. We talked about how it can affect how people display their wares, how it can affect revenue of even little people, not to average Nigerians, how it can affect the total population. And we talked on one of the solutions. We need to start tackling waste at the name. I think John wants to say something before we just leave. Please kindly be fast about it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Shegun. So just like I said earlier, talking about plastic pollution blocking the drains and causing flooding, and as you also said, water goes into the road, causes the road to be damaged and things like that. I just want to bring it down to the fact that this would affect transportation of food.
That's true.
And in turn, it's going to affect the economy. That's because true. There's demand for food. And there's more demand.
People are not getting it, and it gets perished on the way. Yes, perishable goods. We spout the market for perishable goods. You see that when most of the vegetables or vegetable food like onions, tomatoes imported from the north, when they get, even if they are mature already, before they get to your house, you see they're already rotting because of the time taken to travel. Apart from storage, we know that storage is still a problem. But the time it takes to travel, you spend 17 days inside hold up, or 17 hours or 2 hours in hold up. And the hold up is not the normal hold up. Today, I have to face inside the bus, I have to see a lorry using diesel, emitting dark fumes, like constantly. Yeah. Imagine that was on your tomato, that landed on your tomato. So there's a lot of, the cost of this waste is really, really high on us. Yeah. And I think we were not able to say a lot today. Because of time, we need to round up this episode, and I really appreciate it. So I want you guys, those listening to us, you can drop a message for us, you can drop comments, complaint, questions you want us to ask on Jomo Call. And I also want to remind you that this broadcast was brought to you by Jomo Climate Change Initiative, and this is the youth-led NGO focused on raising eco-conscious generation in our country and the world at large. So thank you all for joining us today, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Very much.
Bye. Thank you very much, Shegun. Thank you.